All right. We're just having some people starting to show up here to our webinar, and we're just going to give it a couple minutes as more attendees arrive, and we'll be starting shortly. All righty, a couple more folks are joining up here. So we are right at noon. So I'm going to start the process here. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar. If you're anything like me, you're probably a little bit sick at this point of Zoom and webinars and remote learning and everything else having to do with this 2D image in front of you right now. So we're going to try to keep this short and sweet, while still giving you a lot of good information that you can hopefully take with you and make good education, good evidence-based decisions regarding your Social Security claiming strategy. So my name is Jonathan Howard. I'm a certified financial planner with SeaCure Advisors. Also on the webinar today is my mom and CEO, Carolyn Howard. We're having a bit of a technical issue. We're pretty good at financial planning, if I say so myself. As webinar hosts and technical gurus, we're good financial planners. So we're having a little bit of technical issues with Carolyn's webcam. You will be able to hear her, which is great. But she's going to be on the chat. So if you have any questions while I'm talking and going through things, I do tend to talk fast. Just throw a question in the chat or also use a Q&A button, and Carolyn will be able to type out answers as I'm talking, and also we'll hopefully have some time at the end for a Q&A session at the end of the webinar as well. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get going with the presentation. You'll notice at the bottom of each slide, and also at the end of the webinar, you're going to be getting a copy of the slides. I'm emailing them out to everyone who attends, so you can review the material at your own pace. But at the bottom of each slide, you're going to see a meeting link. There's going to be some people on the webinar I'm seeing today who are already clients here at SeaCure, which is fantastic. So that meeting link might not be as important for you, but for new people, if you want a chance to meet with us, just use that link, and it'll allow you to schedule a 20-minute call with us where we can get to know each other, and also use that time to schedule a longer 90-minute session, which is totally complimentary, no charge for that. And it'll allow us to get under the hood a little bit with your financial picture and provide a report. And I can give you an example. Here's a report I ran for myself and my wife of a spousal Social Security planning analysis, and it shows different claiming strategies, where our break-even points are, which strategy gives us the most lifetime income, so on and so forth. So if that's something you're interested in, please do take advantage of that meeting, and you can use that link at the bottom of each slide. Also, at the end of the presentation today, you're going to get an automated email that is just going to fire off as soon as you disengage from the webinar, and it's going to be a report card. It's run through Google Forms. So don't be alarmed about getting an email from a suspicious looking thing. It's actually from us, and it's going to be a way for us to be able to understand what was working for you, what could have maybe used some attention, some areas that we could strengthen regarding this presentation, because we really do want to make these as valuable as possible to our community. And the way we can make sure every single one of these is better than the last one is through these report cards. So please do take a few minutes. Just should take no more than 5 minutes to fill that out and get that information to us. And we look at every single one. So without further ado, I'm going to fire up our presentation and share my screen here, and we'll be off to the races. So I'm going to get that going, and then back into Zoom and sharing the screen. Oops. Here we go. So we can close this Zoom window and off we go. So hopefully everyone is seeing this. This is Savvy Social Security Planning for Couples. It's the second of 4 presentations that we're doing on Social Security. Each one is designed to stand on its own, so don't feel obligated to watch all four. This one, in my opinion, is probably the most important one because so many people are confused about Social Security. There's a lot of different options out there, especially when you're talking about married couples. And the idea that there's different strategies depending on what year you were born, and different ideas that people have about the value of Social Security, and especially as it pertains to couples and survivor benefits. It can get really complicated really quickly. So for me, this is probably the most important presentation that we're doing on this topic, is this one on couples. But if you are interested in the other ones that we're doing, we also are doing a presentation next week for women, women-specific issues with Social Security, and then also special circumstances like what if you're claiming while you're still working, what if you're divorced, what if you're a widow or a widower. We're going to get into some details on those situations as well. So without further ado, here we go. Disclosures, wonderful. Just going to let you bask in these and soak these in for a second, and moving right into it. So this is a quick recap of what we covered on Tuesday. If you weren't there on our Tuesday workshop webinar on Social Security, we spent some time getting under the hood, looking at the nuts and bolts of it, and talking about how a Social Security benefit is calculated, and just going through some basic concepts. So one of the most important things to understand about Social Security is it is a benefit that you cannot outlive. So just looking at a $2,000 benefit, hypothetically, and the Social Security Administration assumes a 2% cost of living adjustment. And our planning, we like to edge that down a little bit. This year, for example, the cost of living adjustment was 1.3, and some of the Social Security solvency proposals to make sure that Social Security benefits persist at least for the rest of the century involve that those cost of living adjustments maybe being shaded down a bit. So we like to stress our plans out a little bit, but these assumptions right here use a 2% cost of living adjustment. So a $2,000 benefit, if you live 10 more years, if you simply live 10 years from the time that you claim, that will yield $276,032 of income. Now, if you live 20 more years after you claim, you'll have over $600,000 of cumulative income, and living 30 more years after you claim, and people are living longer and longer these days, you will earn over $1 million in Social Security benefits over your lifetime. And in terms of what that means for a monthly paycheck or a monthly check from Social Security, in 10 years with a 2% cost of living adjustment, that $2,000 benefit would turn into $2,438. All the way out to 30 years where that $2,000 benefit turns into $3,623. So this magnifies the importance of an early or late claiming decision, because those cost of living adjustments really do add up. They are compound interest. And it's, as Einstein said, it's one of the 8 wonders of the world. It is the 8th wonder of the world, rather. So key points to understand here in terms of definitions: full retirement age. Your full retirement age is it's going to be dependent on what year you were born. So people born 1954 or earlier, you're going to have a full retirement age of 66. Between 1955 and 1959, that full retirement age increases by 2 months until you get to 1960. And anybody born 1960 or later, which is me, your full retirement age is going to be 67. And this really does impact claiming decisions, because it increases the amount of time. If your full retirement age is at 67 and you claim early, it's going to increase the amount of time that your benefits can be reduced. If your full retirement age is 66 and you wait until 70, that's going to increase the amount of time that you get delayed credits. So this really does matter when your full retirement age is, and understanding how that works with an overall claiming strategy. Your primary insurance amount, or PIA. This is the amount that your benefit would be if you claim at your full retirement age. And this is calculated by looking at your 35 highest years of earnings and indexing each year for inflation. So your oldest earnings get multiplied by a large number so that it's all kind of evened out based on inflation rates. And then that resulting sum of 35 years is divided by 35, and you're going to get something called the average index monthly earnings, or AMI. Then that number is then adjusted using bin points, so that the lower end, like the first $1,000 or so, you get 90% of that. And then the next $5,000 or so, you get 32% of that. And then the remainder, you get about 15%. So those bin points ensure that Social Security is the Social Security benefit is most valuable to lower income earners. But the main thing to understand here is the primary insurance amount, which here's my own Social Security statement. And so you can see really quickly that right on the front page of that, you get your primary insurance amount. That's your benefit at full retirement age. So this is sort of revealing some of our own biases. Everyone's claiming situation is different. So I don't want to feel like I'm pressuring anybody here into not filing before full retirement age. However, a lot of people, a surprising number of people, just assume that Social Security is not going to last and I should just claim benefits as soon as possible at age 62. I've really been surprised in talking with people, the number of folks who have a default assumption that that the best Social Security strategy is the one where you start getting that check as soon as possible. Well, this comes with some pretty serious consequences. And the metaphor I like to use is a glass. So if this is all of the information, this empty glass represents all the information that's available about any topic, in this case, Social Security. You have two options. You can fill this with water, which is knowledge and evidence. And as my water bottle malfunctions, I'm better at working computers than I am at water bottles. But we can have a certain amount of this glass filled with real stuff. That's nourishing, that's knowledge. The remainder, you still have some superstition and hearsay in there. We want to fill this glass as much as we can with actual knowledge and evidence and real numbers, so that when you do make a decision for claiming Social Security, it's going to be the most benefit to you. You don't get any benefit from superstition and hearsay. You get benefit from knowledge. So here we go. We're going to look at real information now. So if you file before full retirement age, your benefit's going to be permanently reduced. And this is, it is reduced on a monthly basis. And depending on when you were born, that reduction, if you're going all the way to age 62, can be 30% of your full retirement age benefit of your primary insurance amount. So that is going to be magnified then by cost of living adjustments. And you will never be able to, once you get to age 70, you can't fix that. That's an unrecoverable decision. So that you're going to feel the effects of that early claiming strategy for the rest of your life. Also, if you're still working and you're claiming Social Security benefits, you get into a complex situation where there's something called, oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. Just know that there is a system, and I'm blanking on the name, I apologize, but there's a system whereby you are going to have $1 of benefits withheld for every $2 you earn over this indexed amount that is, right now this year, $18,960. And that gets indexed every single year. So that does increase every single year. But know that every dollar you earn, or every $2 you earn north of $18,960 is going to be reduced by $1 if you're claiming Social Security while you're still working. This is not a permanent reduction. I don't want to discourage people from doing this by scaring you with false information. This is not a permanent reduction. This is simply while you're underneath your full retirement age, younger than your full retirement age, Social Security Administration is going to withhold some benefits. You're going to make that back, and we're going to get into that in our special circumstances webinar. But you will make that money back. You will get an increased benefit at your full retirement age. But while you're still working, before your full retirement age, there is a reduction in benefits. You will not be able to take advantage of spousal claiming strategies if you claim early. There's a lot of interesting strategies to help you maximize your lifetime benefit. If you claim early, those get wiped out unless you employ some tactics that we can discuss in a meeting that will get into some fine details, more details than we're going to cover here in this presentation about how you can sort of back your way out of some early claiming decisions. And a real key point here, especially for lower earning spouses, is that the surviving spouse's benefit will be permanently reduced if you claim early. So that early claiming decision gets passed on to your surviving spouse if you were the higher earning spouse. So it can have an impact with your legacy planning as well. So some key points to remember when you're applying for Social Security: if you apply early, your benefits going to start lower and it's going to stay lower for the rest of your life. Cost of living adjustments, those COLAs, are going to magnify, because of compounding interest, are going to magnify the impact of early or delayed claiming. So with a delayed claiming strategy, that cost of living adjustment is going to be multiplied against a larger number, and you will pretty quickly make up the difference with as far as that money you haven't earned by not claiming early. You're going to find that you very quickly make up that difference and catch up, and then you never look back. You're going to forever be earning more money than you would have with an early claiming strategy. And also understanding that the decision impacts survivor benefits. So legacy planning is impacted by your claiming strategy in a pretty major way. So now let's talk about spousal benefits. We're going to start to get in the weeds a little bit here. The spouse of a worker entitled to Social Security may claim a spousal benefit. So the word entitled has a specific definition here. Entitled means a couple of things: that the worker is eligible for Social Security and has filed for benefits. So once you file, you are entitled to benefits. So we're going to take a look at an example of a specific case here. We're going to be looking at Jack and Jill. They're married and they're both age 66. Jack has paid into Social Security his entire life. His primary insurance amount is $2,400. Jill has never worked. And once Jack files for Social Security benefits, Jill may file for her spousal benefit. And Jill's spousal benefit is going to be 50% of Jack's primary insurance amount, or $1,200. And that's an important thing to understand. The biggest spousal benefit you can get, and this is a question that we got at the end of our first presentation, the largest spousal benefit that you can get is 50% of that PIA. So if the higher earning spouse delays until age 70, that doesn't increase the spousal benefit past full retirement age. The maximum spousal benefit is 50% of the primary insurance amount, which is the benefit at full retirement age. So we're going to look at some claiming strategies. So we're going to assume a couple different options here: that both spouses claim early. So that's going to mean more income now and less income later. Both spouses claim later. That's less income now and more income later. And then one spouse claims early and the other spouse claims later, which is some income now and more income later. So you get a balanced, you're balancing out some needs here. You are getting some income now, and then you get a real big boost later at age 70 by claiming that maximum benefit, the full retirement age benefit with delayed credits. So we're going to take a look at these strategies with some different life expectancy assumptions. And I can see here already that there's a mistake in our presentation where we've got, I've changed up the names from Jack and Jill to Jane and Joe. Fantastic. So already throw that in the report card, tell me to get my act together, and I will fix this presentation for future audiences. But moving forward, Jane is 58, primary insurance amount is $2,400, life expectancy is 85. Joe is 58, primary insurance amount is $800. And Joe is bucking expectations and actually outliving his spouse by 10 full years to age 95. So Jane is going to claim on her own record at age 62. So this is scenario one, where both spouses claim early. So this is going to get a little bit complicated when we get down to Joe, but here we are. Benefit for Jane is simply going to be that full retirement age benefit multiplied by 70%. So we have a 30% reduction due to claiming early. So her full benefit now is going to be $1,680. Now Joe is going to claim early as well. And when you're the lower earning spouse and your primary insurance amount is less than half of the higher earning spouse's primary insurance amount, when you claim your Social Security benefit, under certain situations, you're going to get a combination of your own benefit plus your spousal benefit. So that's what we're seeing here. Joe's own benefit, his primary insurance amount was $800, and we're going to multiply that by 70% because he gets a 30% reduction of his benefit. So that's $560. Joe's spousal benefit, which is going to be, then this is where it gets complicated. It's going to be $400 now. So what is that? That's taking a look at Jane's PIA, her primary insurance amount, which is $2,400, and then dividing that by 2. That's the spousal benefit. That's $1,200. And now we're going to subtract Joe's own benefit from that, which is $800. And that's going to give us a $400 spousal benefit. But that would be if Joe had waited to full retirement age to claim that benefit. That didn't happen. So now there's a special reduction that happens for spousal benefits. And so it's actually a 35% reduction for claiming early on that spousal benefit. So now we have to multiply that $400 by 65%, and we're going to get $260, which yields a total benefit of $820 for Joe if he claims early at 62. And so I hope you get to understand a little bit now why we depend so much on technology. The math of this can be pretty complicated, especially when you might be talking about claiming strategies that aren't so clear cut, because these reductions happen on a monthly basis. Same with the increases to your benefit, with those delayed credits. Those credits actually are happening monthly. So depending on which month you claim, it does impact the amount of reduced benefit or enhanced benefit that you get depending on when you claim. Scenario 2, we're going to wait to claim for both Joe and Jane to claim at age 70. So Jane's benefit is $2,400, and so she gets those delayed credits. So she's going to get a 24% increase. That's 8% times 3. And so she's going to be looking at a full benefit of $2,976 on her own record. Joe's benefit, remember, he does not get any benefit for claiming for Jane's delayed claiming strategy. He's locked in at $2,400 times 50%. So that's going to be $1,200. And actually, technically, a portion of that is going to be his own benefit, which is $800. So plus his own delayed credits. So there's going to be a portion of that that's Joe's benefit, and then whatever it takes for as far as the difference between that $1,200 and Joe's full benefit at 70, that difference will be made up by his spousal benefit. So under the hood, there's some extra math going on here. The bottom line to understand is that Joe's benefit is going to be netting out at $1,200 before taxes. So scenario 3, Joe claims early and Jane claims later. So the lower income earning spouse now is going, in this scenario, is claiming early and at age 62 on his own record. And then at age 70, when Jane claims off of her record and gets her delayed credits, Joe will then apply his spousal benefit and get an increase to his own benefit at that point. So how does that work? Joe's benefit is $800, but we're going to have to multiply that by 70% because he gets a 30% reduction by claiming early. So that's going to be $560. But maybe in this situation, they needed that money. So already now for 8 full years, he's going to get $560 a month. Jane is going to wait until 70 and claim on her own record. And that benefit, like we said in the previous slide, will be $2,976. Then at age 70, since Joe cannot claim a spousal benefit until Jane has claimed her own benefit, he will add on the spousal portion, which will be $2,400 times 50. That's $1,200. Now we still have to subtract Joe's full retirement age benefit from that to get the portion that he's going to apply to his own spousal, to his own work records benefit. So that's $1,200 minus the $800 from his own working record. That's $400. So his total benefit is going to be $560 plus $400, which is going to equal $960. So that is Joe's full benefit at age 70 using this strategy. But which one of these is correct for this couple? Why would they choose one versus another? Well, something that can be helpful in making this decision is to understand your break-even points and also what your lifetime cumulative benefits are. And in this situation, we're actually not applying any cost of living adjustments. So we call these real benefits as opposed to nominal benefits. A nominal benefit would include the cost of living adjustments. These are in today's dollars, so no inflation for any assumptions of cost of living adjustments. So without any inflation of benefits at all, you can see what this yields over their entire lives. If they both claim early, they'll take about $934,000 in cumulative benefits. If they both claim later, that's going to be $1.1 million in cumulative benefits. But because of the disparity in life expectancy, and that we're assuming, and it could be for a number of factors, maybe Jane's health is worse, maybe her parents lived a much shorter lives than Joe's parents. And so we can make some assumptions based on life expectancy, and we're going to assume that that Jane predeceases Joe by 10 years, and so we have actually more money lifetime if Joe claims early and then Jane claims later, because Joe will live for a considerable amount of time, 10 full years with Jane's full benefit, in addition to the extra money they have at the beginning of this plan by Joe claiming early. So that's illustrated by this graph at the bottom, where you can see fairly early on in the plan, we have a break-even point after which there's no looking back. And the strategy where Joe claims early and Jane claims later actually yields the greatest lifetime benefit and the highest income at the end of the plan for this couple. So another important thing to look at is the first year surviving spouse benefit. And even though in this example, Joe is the lower earning spouse, this is really important to pay attention to for women because, just culturally in America, a lot of women take on the role of caregivers, both for children and also for aging parents. And so if looking at men and women, the spouse who's most likely, married couples, the spouse who's most likely to take a reduction of income, a reduction of work hours, potentially putting a career on hold, to do family caregiving for babies, for aging parents, that's going to be the woman. Not saying it's right or wrong, it's just statistically, this is what's most likely. So really important to understand how the first year surviving spouse benefit is going to work. So if they both claim early without any cost of living adjustments, Joe's benefit when Jane dies will be $23,760. If they both claim later, and if they do that mixed strategy, that where Joe claims early and Jane claims later, in both of those cases, you have a big increase of about $12,000. And that's without any cost of living adjustments, a $12,000 difference. So toward the end of his life, where there may be more income needed to cover increased medical costs, Joe will be receiving, under these other claiming strategies, an extra $12,000 for, in this case, $35,712. And that is not including any cost of living adjustments, which would inflate that quite a bit. And people are always shocked when we actually start looking at these numbers far down the line, exactly how much money is coming from Social Security into their retirement income plan. So when you're designing your own claiming scenario, if you want to do it on your own, it's important to run customized scenarios, and we can do this for you. And there's no charge for this. We can run these in an introductory meeting. If you're new to SeaCure Advisors and all you want out of us is to see one of these reports, and I have an example of ours, of one of ours here. I know my window is really small right now, but the report contains a lot of great information with cash flow breakdowns of how each scenario works and where the break-even points are, what your survivor's benefit would be under these different scenarios, and what your maximum lifetime income would look like under each scenario. And using these comparisons can help you make the best decision for your unique situation, because everyone is different. There is no one-size-fits-all strategy with this. So it's important when you're making these decisions that you do make claiming decisions as a couple. It will do you no good to make a decision for one person to go off on an island and make a decision without taking into account both members of the married couple. And take advantage of spousal benefits as the rules allow. And there are different rules depending on when you were born. if you're born before the year 1954, there are special rules that apply to you that will allow you to actually get more Social Security benefits than folks who were born after 1954 in a married couple situation. It gets pretty complex, but these situations are really important to understand. So very important to run some scenario analysis if you're born before the age of 1954. And it is important to run that analysis using an advisor like SeaCure Advisors, and do try to find certified financial planners like us so that you know that we are looking out for your best interests as fiduciaries. Now, one of the important things to understand here when it comes to those 1954 file and suspend strategies, as we call them, and any Social Security planning strategy, is that the Social Security Administration, they can tell you what your benefit will be at certain ages, but they cannot do any planning for you. They can't tell you when when you should claim to get the most amount of money. They can't do comparisons of lifetime income. They can tell you what your benefit will be, what your monthly benefit will be when you claim at certain ages, and that is the limit of what they're allowed to tell you. So there are some big limitations there, and it's important to understand those, and why it's important to actually either find a calculator that you trust or work with an advisor like SeaCure Advisors when designing your income strategy. Be sure you're planning for a surviving spouse's income. Very, very rarely will both spouses die at the exact same time. So you're going to need to take into account an assumption, a life expectancy assumption, and just plan for a certain number of years where one spouse will be on their own. And then integrating Social Security into the rest of your retirement income plan, which includes things like pensions, drawdowns from investment income, and all the different and dividend income, different tax rates that apply to these different income sources. These are all incredibly important when designing a spousal retirement income plan. So I promised this would be short and sweet, and that is it. That is the end of our presentation. I hope that this was informative and not overly confusing, but at the same time, I do want to emphasize that it is complex. There are literally hundreds of different claiming strategies that are available to people, depending on the year that you were born, depending on whether or not you were married. All these things, play into it. Life expectancy assumptions. These are all incredibly important details to take into account, and it's simply too important for guesswork. It's too important to rely on this part of the knowledge glass. You want to make sure that you are using as much as possible real information and not superstition and hearsay. And just because someone said something that sounded good at work, that is not actual advice. It's really important to take stock of all the information that's available out there before making a decision, because these decisions do ripple out for the rest of your life. So again, here is our meeting link, as well as our contact information. If you want to reach out to us directly, we encourage you to do so. And with that, I'm going to shut off my slideshow here and see if we have any questions. Does anybody here have some questions for us that we can address?
There was one question that came in, Jonathan.
Okay.
In terms of, I'm just trying to understand that if I decide to take my Social Security early and continue to work, would my benefit be reduced if I stayed under that $18,000? I think it was $960.
Yeah, so that $18,960, if your total income from Social Security and your working source is actually 50% of your Social Security benefit, and all of your working your earnings, if those are under $18,960, then there's no reduction of benefits. You only get a reduction of benefits for earned income above $18,960.
Okay.
And I do see another question here. It's from one of our attendees here. In general, if each spouse makes roughly the same amount of money and have similar monthly rates at their full retirement age, would one of them still file for spousal benefits, even though the 50% of their spouse's monthly payment would be less than their own? So that's a really complex question, and is one of the reasons why we run different scenarios. it would be difficult for me to say what the best situation is there. I will say that in general, if you're looking at a delayed claiming strategy and both claiming at age 70, it does not take long at all to make up the difference between what you would have made by claiming early, even with a blended strategy where one spouse claims early and the other spouse claims later. It does not take long at all before you've made up the difference. And, it depends on the situation, but it's generally somewhere between 8 and 12 years after age 70 that you would have made up the difference. And those cost of living adjustments really do have a big part in that. So just looking at the question again, one of them still file for spousal benefits, even though the 50% of the spouse's monthly payment would be less than their own. Again, I would need to actually run the calculator. I'm not going to give an answer to that right off the top of my head. For this is one of those situations where I rely on the numbers that are, spit out by our calculators and just looking at what makes the most sense in a given situation. If there's an income need that isn't going to be possible to be made up, if you can't fulfill that income need through investments, through drawdowns from your savings, that kind of thing, then it might be necessary, regardless of what the maximum lifetime benefit might be. It might simply be necessary in that situation for one of the spouses to claim early or at full retirement age, and then then the other spouse claim at 70. So it's really important not just to run different scenarios, but also to run these scenarios within the context of a comprehensive plan that's actually taking into account every detail of your financial picture and your goals, so that you're not simply, same with like investment returns. It's not just about chasing the highest return. If it was just about chasing the highest return, you would use margin accounts and options and all sorts of crazy, complex and risky strategies. And over time, you would make more money than the market. But along the way, you would lose everything several times in market corrections. And that simply doesn't work for most people. So it's not simply about chasing the largest dollars. It's not just about chasing the highest returns. It's about finding the right strategy for you and what your needs are and what your goals are. So to answer that question, in this case, Jennifer asking, I would really want to look at your strategy specifically and what would be appropriate for you in your specific situation. So I love to be long-winded here. I think I just spoke interrupted for about 5 minutes off of a one sentence.
I think another to add a little bit to that, Jonathan, I think another thing that's critical here would be your family's life expectancy and your own personal health.
Absolutely.
So those are factors that are over and beyond just looking at the numbers that need to be thought about as well.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, life expectancy is incredibly important, and the way we make assumptions on that, and it's just guesses. And I can't emphasize that enough. A financial plan, the longer we're projecting out in the future, the more we're guessing, because I mean, no one saw a pandemic coming. I mean, I'm sure a couple of people did, but every single time there's a big event, it's always the one that you don't expect. There's a definition of risk that an advisor named Carl Richards has, which I really like, which is that risk is what's left over when you think you've thought of everything. So the farther out we project, the more likely we are to be wrong. But it is important to make a guess. You have to start somewhere. So looking at your own personal health, and looking at how long your parents lived, these are some pretty good ways that we can start to make some assumptions about what your life expectancy is. And we have some just basic averages that we can pull in, like, our software, our calculators will automatically plug in different ages based on whether or not it seems likely that you'll live much longer than average, a little bit longer than average, exactly at average, and then obviously less than average and much less than average, because different people have different life history, different genes, so we got to do our best to take those into account. And that appears to be it. Do we have any more questions coming in?
No, I don't see any more, and I don't see anything else in chat.
Okay.
So.
Well, very good. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us in 2D here. And I will be sending out to all attendees, I will be sending a copy of our slides. And also this webinar will be available on demand. It was sort of fumbly and bumbly a little bit in the beginning there. I've been enjoying some dark chocolate here that my wife got from Trader Joe's, and it makes me a little spazzy. So I apologize in the beginning if I was going too fast and sort of blurring my words a bit. But you can watch a recording of this webinar, and there will also be slides available for you. And please do remember to fill out that report card. It will be, we review all of them and use them to try to make each presentation better than the last one. So with that, thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and happy planning.